All right. Welcome back to All Cars Reacts, my friends. It is time to consider our mini-series we're doing on the mid to late 2000s. We're working through the mid-sized cars, and today we have the 2006 Hyundai Sonata. And I'm doing this one. This was on the list, but it was pretty far down. But when I did the Fusion video, they mentioned the Sonata as a competitor like 3 or 4 times. So I thought I'd move this up and go ahead and do it and see what Motorweek liked so much about this car. But I ran into a little bit of a conundrum. The Sonata was redesigned in, I believe, 2009 is when the new one was released. And I like that one a lot. It's all swoopy and Asian looking, but it was the first Sonata I really noticed. And that would be fitting into my mid to late 2000s. But if you've got a 2007, 2008 car and you're talking about a competitor, you're looking backwards. So I've decided to do this generation. I'll probably add the other one later on. But as always, make yourself comfortable. Let's sit and chat like two old friends with our beverages of choice. We do have some decaf. It's relatively early here this morning. I can't talk. And let's see what Motorweek said about it. And quite honestly, I want to see what all the fuss is about.
Your host for Motorweek, John Davis.
Well, hello and welcome again to Motorweek. We're glad to have you with us. With so much competition, Hyundai knows that to continue their rapid growth, they need to set the bar high. Their goal is to launch 7 new benchmark vehicles in the next 24 months. And the third to roll onto the stage is the 2006 Hyundai Sonata. This all-new American-built family sedan promises to deliver more style, performance, safety, and value than any car in its class. When your rivals are Camry and Accord, that's a tall order. So, can it deliver? America's Walmart mentality clearly shows that we love a bargain. And first impressions of the American-built 2006 Hyundai Sonata are that this new midsize sedan could be the automotive bargain of the year. Styling may be the first clue that the new Sonata might be a real threat to Camry and Accord. It looks a lot like them, which is to say generic, safe, but modern, and a far cry from the previous Sonata's throwback stance. Hyundai's trademark domed hood has been flattened a bit. Lines are more elegantly cut, and 4-barrel dual projector headlights in wraparound housings replace the old raised eyebrow look. Trim levels remain as before: base GL, mid-level GLS, and top-of-the-line LX. The 5th generation Sonata is 2 inches longer, 2 inches taller, and a half-inch wider than before. Wheelbase is up an inch to 107.4, sliding neatly between its 2 main rivals. Power is most competitive.
Before they go on to the powertrains, let's go back. Let's talk about the styling for a minute. I have somewhat mixed feelings about it. I have said before, I'm fascinated with Hyundai because they came from so low, and just every generation was such an incredible improvement, whereas some other manufacturers who were already excellent, it was these incremental little changes. Hyundai just made huge jumps forward. And that includes in their styling. This one, I would say this is the first Sonata that I noticed, or that I maybe took seriously. I can't say I loved it, but I've always believed Hyundai looked at Toyota and said, we want to be them, and to be them, we got to beat them. And so basically they just went right for Toyota. This is a not bad looking car. I'm not going to say it's class leading. I'm not going to say that it's drop dead gorgeous. It's beautiful, but this is a pretty sharp looking car. One angle, it looks a little bit like a later model Subaru to me. In some other angles, it looks a little Acura-ish up in the front. But generally what you end up with is a competitor that is obviously aimed right at the best. and it works. It's the front's handsome, the side profile's handsome, the rear tail lights, they're pretty good looking as well. It looks like a thoroughly modern, thoroughly competitive car. It does look slightly derivative, right? Like they copied somebody else's work, but I don't want to be overly critical of it. I think it's a handsome car, and it wouldn't be my top choice in my driveway, but I wouldn't be ashamed to have it in my driveway.
Rivals. Power is most competitive. GL and GLS come standard with an all-new 2.4-liter dual overhead cam 4-cylinder that delivers a healthy 162 horsepower and 164 pound-feet of torque. But to put the real wind in the Sonata's sails, trade up to the new 3.3-liter V6. Optional on the GLS and standard on the LX, it sends 235 horsepower and 226 pound-feet of torque to the front wheels. Both all-aluminum engines use variable valve timing to increase low-end power and high-end economy. Transmission choices are either a 5-speed manual or 4-speed manual mode Shiftronic automatic for the 4-cylinder. Opt up for the V6, and the only gear change is a 5-speed Shiftronic automatic. Here's another...
Okay, competitive, right? That 4-cylinder makes slightly more than the Fusion, a little bit more than the Camry, but less than the Accord. The V6 it's got more than the Fusion's V6, which is only a 3-liter, but falls down pretty big compared to the Camry and to the Accord. And then a 4-speed automatic, I don't have a note here. I don't remember the other ones having a 4-speed automatic as an option, but you get the 5-speed with the V6. Competitive powertrain, not totally class leading. And I don't remember this engine being super refined. Not terrible, not bad, just not quite as good as the top out there.
Bargain, traction control is standard on all models. We got our first chance to test the new Sonata on the highways and back roads north of San Francisco. And in a few words, we were very impressed. Our V6 tester was by far the smoothest and most responsive Hyundai sedan we've yet tried. Though the first of Hyundai's new built true red, white, and blue efforts, the Sonata still has a very Asian, even Japanese feel. The tranny was very competent, always shifting in the heart of the torque curve. Shifts are comparable to an Accord, although not quite as smooth as a Camry. On the highway, the driving experience was very quiet and stable. But on the twisties, the softly sprung suspension exhibited a lot of body roll and front push. Overall, ride and handling of the new Sonata were assuring, but not overwhelming, leaving it somewhat behind its rivals, especially the Accord.
Interesting how they word that. It's they compared it to previous Hyundais first. That's interesting. That's faint praise, saying this is the best Sonata ever. Well, you got to compare it with the best out there. And then they do. And to say that the transmission shifts were as good as the Accords, but not as good as the Camrys, good praise. Really good praise, actually. Now, these would have been previous generation Accord and Camrys because the new ones were coming, but they spent some time on it. Now, when I hear that it has a almost Japanese feel, but that when the road gets a little twisty, it's softer sprung, that tells me the car doesn't have the structural rigidity of its competitors. And it's not bad, okay? You never felt like this was shaking itself to death, but if you don't have as structural a car, you soften the suspension to take out some of the body flex. Am I reading too much into it? Well, maybe I am, but that's what I hear. And they say it's just not as good as the best in the category.
But well ahead is Sonata's standard electronic stability control system. An often pricey driver aid, it's not even available on most midsize family cars. Other tools include 16 and 17-inch tires, double wishbone front and multi-link rear suspension, engine speed sensitive steering, and to stop, ABS-equipped four-wheel all-disc brakes, no drums allowed, with electronic brake force distribution. Inside, this mid-size class sedan gets a large car-sized cabin. Seating is spacious with more front legroom than Camry or Accord. Compared to the last Sonata, seat height is raised an inch for easier entry. And regardless of trim level, the interior is very well equipped. Standards include a leather-wrapped tilt wheel, cruise control, air conditioning, a CD MP3 sound system, plus power windows, locks, and heated mirrors. And though somewhat shy of its competitors' finish, the nearly Audi-esque interior plastics and fabrics were still attractive and tightly assembled. Passenger space allows for 3 adults in back with 60/40 split-fold seat backs. The deep and contoured seating is comfy, with again very good legroom, well suited for long trips. For occupant safety, all new Sonatas are equipped with 6 standard airbags. They include front seat mounted side impact and front and rear side curtain airbags. And if you've got stuff to store, the Sonata's 16.3 cubic feet trunk will swallow it up. A 16% increase over the previous year, the cavernous well beats out the Accord by 2.3 cubic feet.
Wow. So, as I like to do, let's work from the trunk back in. Now I understand why, like in the Fusion video, they talked about the Sonata trunk. For comparison, just to refresh our memories here, the Camry, the 2007 Camry, 14.5, the Accord 14, the Fusion 15.8 cubic feet, and this thing's over 16. That's a massive size trunk. So if you're buying a car based on value per cubic feet of trunk space, right now the Sonata is winning, which would be a weird measurement to consider. The rest of the interior, I have to admit, I really like it. I really, really like it. Except for a couple of things. It's split rear seat back, folds down, had plenty of space. Of course, you know I'm going to say I love the beige interior. And up front, what I recall about it, because I had a ex-in-law of some sort had one of these, and it was comfortable. It was the Hyundai interior that made me go, wait a minute, this is not the company that's making cheap plastic crap. Some of the plastic struck me as a little low rent. And right there in the center, like kind of up top, where the radio was, that struck me as just a little low rent. And then down where, I'll use this picture, down where the vents are and then the HVAC controls. While I love the HVAC has these big knobs on them, that whole area, there's something about the plastic or how it's molded or it all just looks a little cheap. But comparing it with its competitors, depending on what the price is, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with this interior. It just looks a little behind the curve. Like Hyundai is still trying to get there, even though they said this is Audi-esque plastics. The way it comes together just it wasn't at the top of the class. It's not bad. It just wasn't at the top of the class. Oh, and talking about the trunk, I would like to point out that they're using the multi-link assemblies on the trunk lid. Just like I've talked about before, they're not using the big goosenecks, right? They actually invest in making a trunk lid that swings way open and uses the more elegant solution. Many compliments to Hyundai here.
Meanwhile, the Sonata also escapes a beating at the pump. EPA estimates for the 4-cylinder manual rank 24 city and 34 highway, while the 6 with the automatic calls for 20 city and 30 highway. So, Kmart shoppers, how are we doing so far? And now the prices. A base 4-cylinder GL manual is just $18,495. The GLS 4 with automatic runs $19,995. And for the top shelf V6 LX automatic, you'll pay $23,495. That's over $2,500 less than a similar Toyota XLE and nearly $4,000 less than Accord's top model EX. Wow.
Wow. That's so the bottom number is the base level number starting at 18 something. Not adjusting for equipment levels, that's a little expensive. You know, the other ones out here, the Camry was estimated to start in the 18s. The Fusion started at 18. The Accord started at 20. So that's not the bargain you would expect. The Fusion is undercutting it. And I spoke gloriously about the Fusion. But at the top end, again, not adjusting for optional equipment here, the Camry was in the 28 range, the Accord 30, and the Fusion, the V6 option started at 22. Compared to the imports, that's why this car sold. You could get a V6 and save thousands of dollars over a Camry or an Accord. Good value.
Talk about a blue light special. And that's before you factor in a 100,000-mile powertrain warranty and surveys that find recent Hyundai quality at Toyota levels or above. By every measure, the new Sonata is an able and desirable midsize competitor and a car that will shake up the entire midsize family sedan class. Like bargain hunters on the day after Thanksgiving, we think consumers will flock to the 2006 Hyundai Sonata in droves.
Really interesting. So I have fond but mixed memories of this car. And it is a car to me that perhaps is best summed up by saying less than the sum of its parts. And what I mean by that is there's nothing wrong with the styling. I actually think it's pretty good looking. There's nothing wrong with the interior. I think it looks pretty good. The engines are competitive. The warranty is the best in the business, but you hope not to have to use it because they're quality. All of I don't want to say all, but the quality surveys coming out said that they were rapidly increasing and becoming a legitimate competitor to the best of the best in the industry. But together, this car always left me just a little unsatisfied. That's probably the best way to say it, because I like the styling. This is the kind of styling I like, right? And I don't remember, later on I'm going to be, or maybe after this or before this, I don't remember. I do another Sonata, a later generation of Sonata, which looks like an evolution of this. And I love that Sonata. Okay. I think it's one of the best looking midsize cars that was available. This one's so close, but it still looks a little off the mark for me. And I can't tell you why. I don't have enough styling experience to say this is why it doesn't quite work for me. I think it looks way better than the Camry. The Accord looks a little more elegant, looks a little more finished. And I like the Fusion more. Okay. But it doesn't look bad. Interior, same thing. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with it. I like the color choices. I like the shapes, the regular laid out dash, but it just, in sitting there and touching it, you just end up with the it's not quite as nice as some other stuff. And so while they hit a lot of the numbers on a spreadsheet in cubic feet in the trunk and horsepower from this engine, and we need a 5-speed automatic over here, the package as a whole just wasn't quite where the best in the industry were. It was close. And I celebrate this car because it looked good, and it was the first one where you really, in my mind, it was the first one where you really didn't have to make excuses for choosing the Hyundai because it represented a solid value. And that's all I got to say about it. That's a good car. And I understand now why they were comparing it, because it objectively hit all those, or subjectively hit all those high points, offered a huge trunk, and was competitive in almost every way. I'm not sure I agree it was a blue light special, but you think about Camry and Accord and how often those dealers like to give rebates, or the manufacturer likes to give rebates, and then you take a Hyundai who probably came into the showroom with $1,000 on the hood. Don't know that for sure, but the value proposition here constantly increased. And the next Hyundai was another revolutionary jump forward for them. Super cool one. I'm glad we did this one when we did, and I've got a whole list of what the next ones are going to be. You know, if we were back here at this time, I don't think I'd choose it, but it would have been on my shopping list, and that's a major improvement from some of the other Hyundai products before. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me here today. Leave your comments down below. I look forward to hearing them. Bye.